checking the news, eating, drinking, or maybe getting angry at people. Like those are probably very standard triggers people are going with. And if they can just take themselves out and say, okay, why am I doing this behavior right now? Let me be mindful about this practice. Do I need to do this? Be curious about it, and then maybe replace it with a kindness instead.
Yes. And I would add to that, one of the biggest things that I'm also seeing is worry. So worry is a unique beast in several ways. One is when we were studying our eating program, people were saying, oh, I'm actually eating because I'm anxious. And I started to look to see if anxiety could actually be perpetuated in the same habitual way as eating. And in fact, there's a lot of research showing this that goes back to the 80s. So in essence, a negative emotion like fear or anxiety can trigger worry as a mental behavior. So it's not just physical behaviors that can perpetuate these things, mental behaviors as well. And that worry would do two things. One, help people feel like they're in control because they are actually doing something. And two, it would distract them from that worst feeling emotion of fear or anxiety itself. So worry can get perpetuated as a negatively reinforced habit loop in the same way that eating or smoking can. And in fact, the worry starts to spiral out of control because worry itself doesn't feel good and it doesn't fix anything. So just doing something isn't necessarily doing something helpful. In psychiatry training, what we learned this phrase, don't just do something, sit there. And the idea was, when we're about to reach out with I'm going to give you a great interpretation, it was either about us thinking we had a great interpretation, or it was because we're bumbling around and we don't know what's going on. And so we're going to say something, and generally saying something equals inserting foot in mouth. And so another phrase that was applicable there was, the more you say, the less you know. And that's where the don't just do something, or in psychiatry, don't just say something, sit there. And so it can be really important for us, if we have the urge to do something, whether it's spun out by worry or that doing is worrying itself, to first ask, is this pointing me in the right direction? Now, if we're going to do something and it is helping, connect us or disseminate accurate information or whatever, great. But if we don't step back and look, we might be doing something that's actually making things worse. And that's really important to recognize.
And most people are probably in a massive state of worry right now, worrying about family members around the world, worrying about all of this stuff, and it could be overtaking them and changing their behavior. And does it get addictive, the worry, as well?
Yeah, it really does. So I think of my definition of addiction that I learned in residency was continued use despite adverse consequences. So if we are continuing to worry and we get on the phone with a family member, I've seen this. We get on the phone with a family member and say, hey, I'm worried about you. I want you to be safe. Well, worrying about them isn't going to make them safer physically. And our worry could become contagious to them, where they're not going to be thinking clearly. They might be reactive, or they might get freaked out themselves and not be able to keep their thinking brain online to do the things that keep them safe.